questions that I received over here.
Okay.
Okay. So why do essential oils make plastics cloudy?
Why do they make plastics cloudy? So essential oils are made up of a number of different active components or active molecules. Those molecules, many of them contain oxygen, which is a reactive species. They contain nitrogen as well, which is reactive. And so it's actually interacting with the plastics to break them down. So you're changing, for example, a polymer, you're breaking it, for example, into smaller pieces. A polymer is a long chain of plastics. There's a potential that it's actually breaking it up into shorter pieces, which would then affect potentially the clarity of the oil or whatever component is in that bottle.
So it is actually breaking down.
It's more than likely
the plastic.
It's more than likely reacting with the plastic, like invading the plastic to cause some sort of chemical change.
So then would you say that if you were using like a plastic container of sorts and that started happening, do you think that you would then be ingesting pieces of plastic particles?
So there's a lot of research right now on microplastics. So even they're finding microplastics in water bottles, and they're finding more microplastics in water bottles when the bottle has been left in a car, for example, and heated up. So water, while it's mostly H2O, you're putting additional reactive species from the essential oils now in that same environment. So you're probably going to have more reactions then.
So question to follow up from there. The fees cleaners are in plastic containers.
Right.
But they have, so do you do something different with the plastic, or is it because it's not straight oil, there's other things in it, or what is the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so it's more dilute than what you would find in just a straight 100% oil.
Right.
Also the type of plastic, we do stability studies on that to ensure that it's not breaking down.
Okay.
And so most products that we have we've done at least a 2-year stability.
Okay.
So a lot of the expiration dates that you'll see on the bottle are based on that stability data.
That's why it's not necessarily the product itself, it's the container,
it's the container and the conditions that you keep it in as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. This is kind of a follow-up question, and I found this one interesting. We have a gal who says the flavor of the essential oil stays embedded in her stainless steel tumbler. Like after she's drinking her water with oils in it and washing it, the flavor still remains in the stainless steel.
What is she drinking? Is she drinking water?
Water and usually like a citrus oil.
So essential oils are made up of compounds some that are very water soluble and some that are not as water soluble. And so when you add it to your oil, you may notice that some of the oil is residual in a water bottle because it's not soluble in the water. And so it doesn't mix in 100%. So a lot of times heavier compounds or larger compounds that are in the oil will what we call drop out a little bit or separate from whatever it is that you're trying to dissolve them in. That's why when other companies do like an absolute, they have to use an organic solvent in order to dissolve the compounds out of the plant material. And then they'll evaporate off the solvent. But it's because those compounds they're trying to recover for the aroma isn't soluble in water like it would be in a steam distillation.
So would you say it's just somehow clinging to the stainless material, or maybe at the microscopic level, I guess stainless steel probably isn't totally just...
So stainless steel, it contains metal ions, right? I mean, it's made of metal. And so the metal ions they like to attract things, so it could be holding on to residual compounds. But it's probably more a function of the solubility of whatever she's drinking.
So what I had heard was that put a little bit of sea salt in with the oil and then add your water, and I guess that helps it to like mix in with the water.
So
Does that really work?
So what the sea salt does is you're putting ions into the water, right? And they can occupy those active sites on the metals so that other things they can't grab onto other compounds or other things that are in the water.
I was told that Gary said our oils only would touch glass and stainless
Right.
So, but stainless steel should be less reactive towards
It's less reactive than, say,
oils,
like a
right?
copper vessel. Because with copper vessels, those copper ions, they could leach out of the metal as well. So stainless steel and glass are the two best materials that we have right now. Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
What would be an example of like for what oil she's wanting to put in? If she doesn't want that taste stain, what would be an oil that wouldn't do that as much?
So
like you were saying, a lighter.
So your lighter oils, so your citrus oils are probably your best. Your lime, your orange, your lemon. That's probably the best thing to add.
Yeah.
If you start adding heavier oils like frankincense, then you're going to possibly get some of that more residual down at the bottom.
Or like peppermint.
Peppermint, not bad, but it does have some heavier compounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then talking about standards, or testing standards.
Yeah.
So what made Young Living choose those standards and why? Like, we know the products are top notch. What led the company there?
So it all started years ago when Gary was first trying to source good quality essential oils. So he went to Europe. He was sitting at a table trying to sell the oils that he had, and he recognized that within the industry there are different qualities of the same oil. So for example, with tea tree, there's 5 or more different qualities of oil that you could actually buy. His desire to want to provide only the best oil, he knew that you had to create a standard from the plant material itself. So in our seed to seal quality standard, we take the original plant material, we distill it in our own laboratory. Right next to where we distill it is the analytical instrumentation. So as soon as we distill it, we put it right on the instrument. And that becomes the gold standard of what we compare everything else against. So we go around the world collecting the plant material, bring it to our lab, distill it, so that we know where the plant material came from. We've authenticated that. And then once we create the oil, we know about the starting material, that it was pure. And so now that standard that we've created becomes what we compare everything else against. So even if we're bringing in oil that we maybe didn't grow ourselves, we have created a standard that we have distilled ourselves from material that we know is authentic. And that way we can prevent anybody from trying to get an adulterated oil into our system. And that's how we guarantee that every bottle of oil meets that seed to seal quality.
Have you guys had to turn distributors away?
Absolutely, because people who try to sell us oil, it's called economically motivated in our industry, so they try to dilute it with other things. Today you smelled neroli and petitgrain. A lot of times they'll take neroli, which is an expensive oil, they'll add orange, they'll add petitgrain sometimes, or they'll add synthetic compounds to try to stretch it or dilute it because they're economically motivated to try to dilute it to make more money. And so we have advanced instrumentation in our lab that we can detect that when that happens, and so they know that we're watching. And so nowadays they don't even try to pass one over on us, so to speak, because they know we'll catch them. It's very expensive to return a lot of oil that they've shipped us because they have to pay to have it returned. So they just know that don't mess with us. If they try to adulterate something, we'll find it. We have instrumentation in our lab that other labs don't have.
So when was the last time someone shipped you something that you had to turn back?
Oh my gosh. That incidence is so low now. The last one I heard of, it's probably been at least a year.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're on constant watch for that.
Right.
Yeah. We have specific oils that we have a special test in R&D for. A lot of times the ones that are more expensive to try to catch any sort of source of adulteration.
Okay, last question, and this may or may not be compliant, so we'll have to see.
Okay.
Which oil do you find has the most benefits?
The most benefits?
All the oils.
I love Copaiba.